First home buyers, it is a war zone. It's a minefield of information, or sometimes lack of information. Today we're talking about where a first home buyer can buy a property with a 5% deposit. It sounds too good to be true. It's not. We're going to tell you more. Stay tuned.
Good morning.
Top of the morning, Billy Bob, Billy Boy.
Top of the morning.
How are you?
Nice cup of tea to start the morning.
Oh, most importantly, Billy, you were attacked yesterday. You were accosted by a local in DY, and your age. Did you think about that overnight at all?
Yeah, and then when I got home, the first thing as I walked through the door was Mum's comments. And she watched the
what
video.
Did she say?
She just reminded me of the horrible experience. No, no, it was a lovely encounter. Pleasure meeting. I think Lizzie, the legend, the local legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She thought you looked a little bit young, but she didn't know you're an old man in a young man's body.
That's right. She just saw the young face.
Check it out if you missed it yesterday. Heard the videos there of a local attacking Billy on his age, being a real estate agent.
It was quality.
We wanted to make this show so you can. It's designed to share, because there's a lot of. I find that it's a bit of a mixed bag with first home buyer stuff. So to get the good quality information for a first home buyer holistically and say, right, that's where I sit, that's who I am, and they're the incentives that I can get, will get, should get, it's really, really hard. So first home buyer stuff in principle is in 3/4 parts. Part one that we want to talk about today is how small your deposit can be if you're a small home buyer, with what the government's introduced as 5% deposits. Do you still owe the remaining 15%? How that works with LMI, lending mortgage insurance, how much you're saving on LMI, and also this incentive has now been extended across to single parents that want to buy on a 5% deposit, and how it affects your cash flow. So it's a chunky topic. We're going to break it down over a 8 minute period so you can digest it.
Well, I think the first place to start with this is, yes, they exist. Yes, they're available. Yes, you should take advantage of them. And no, they're not going to be around forever. It's not a guaranteed thing that these government grants are going to be on the table forever. But whilst they're there, you'd be crazy not to use them. And I don't think worry about saving anything above the 5% deposit, to be honest. If you're trying to get into a property, kind of focus on getting your 5% together and then go from there. Don't stress about anything past that point to begin with.
It is that easy, and I think it's one foot in front of the other. And we were talking to a colleague in the office about this incentive scheme yesterday, and it was like, you've just got to get that money saved and the rest just falls into place. But it just seems like mission impossible in a war zone, and it's too hard, and I haven't done it for 10 or 15 years. I'm 35. I'm not going to be able to do it. Lies. It's possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really big one. I think, Luke's, put a good comment here. One step at a time. Focus on the save. And then you'll be amazed how quickly after a period of really aggressive saving, where you're putting all your, just trying to put all your savings together, you'd be amazed how quickly it does come together. And then before you know it, you're talking, serious conversations to a broker on how to, do the rest.
So guys, the 5%, what's Nicole got to say?
Question. Isn't the Labor government talking about removing this if they get back in?
Oh, look, you just don't know with what's happening at the moment. There's been mud being thrown around everywhere with what each other's going to be doing. But I just think with the first home buyer stuff, it's if it works for you and you fit into that box, don't assume that box is going to stay that shape for the next year, 2 or 3 or 4. It could well change, and these incentives could come off the table very quickly. They come onto the table quickly, so they can leave it just as quick. But I want to go back to this 5% deposit. Let's stick to this 5% deposit. The reason the 5% deposit was developed for first home buyers to buy a property was the comment that everyone makes is, poor first home buyer, how the hell do they get a deposit together to buy a property? It seems like it's the biggest pinch point for a first home buyer to get that money together. The way that was traditionally done before was leaning on mum and dad. So first home buyer with a little bit of money, the balance comes from mum and dad, and then they produce and buy a property. What's Luke got to say?
If you want the home enough, you'll live on 2-minute noodles and 3 jobs to save.
It's true. So what happened is the government turned around and said, okay, we realise that first home buyers need to get about 20% together. Yeah. If they don't have 20%, they will breach a bank policy, or necessity, I should say, which is called lender's mortgage insurance. This is where it gets a little bit complex. Bear with me on this. If you have a 20% deposit as any buyer, as a first home buyer, banks don't have to insure themselves against you. Lender's mortgage insurance is what it's called, LMI. So what actually happens is the bank says you've got a 17% deposit. We need to insure you for 3%. You've got a 15% deposit only. We need to insure you for 5%. To take you up to 80%, so there's a thing called lender's mortgage insurance. So yes, the bank's going to give you the money, but they're going to charge you lender's mortgage insurance for the difference that you don't have to take you up to 20%. So as an example, you've got a 10% deposit. Well, you need to get taken up to another 20%, and the bank's going to get LMI for 10%, and then you're up to your 80% LMI. So they will charge you for the privilege. Now, if you have only a 5% deposit, the bank needs to get LMI insurance for you for about 15%. That can cost 15 to 20 grand depending on the loan sum. The bank will ask you to pay the LMI insurance because it's for you, because it's for yourself. So the government saw this problem a couple of years ago and said, well, these poor kids only have a 5% deposit. They can't get in to buy a property. These poor kids, some of them can be 40. They can be a 40-year-old virgin. They could be whatever. So they said, look, these poor guys can't get their deposit together. So let's help them with the lender's mortgage insurance cost. So make no mistake, guys, you apply for this. You apply that you've only got a 5% deposit. The banks, the government has worked with 4 of the major banks to do this, and they have tailored a normal loan, a normal interest rate, together with a specific grant that you don't have to pay lender's mortgage insurance. Is that clear?
It's clear. The silver lining here is that you do save approximately $15,000 on a loan, circa $600,000.
Huge.
So
yeah. You still owe the 95%.
You still owe the 95%, but you're not being punished for a smaller deposit where you were previously. And a saving of $15,000 is pretty much half your deposit, or it can be.
All right, so if you've just tuned in, first home buyers are missing this opportunity. It could be taken off the table. It should be taken advantage of. Pay with a 5% mortgage deposit. So on 640 grand, we've got something for sale at the moment. A buyer's got to come up with how much?
Well, to keep things round numbers, let's just say you borrow 600,000. So you've got 40 grand. You've got 40 grand as your deposit.
Yep.
I think that's pretty achievable. You can even do this between two people, a couple. So it's 20 grand each you've got to come up with.
That's a good point. And if you think you can't buy much for 640, we've just listed one yesterday, number 10 Sturdy Parade. That is a corker of a unit. It's virtually brand new. It's nice and high. It's got views. It's full of light. Not much to spend on it at all because it's a 5-6 year old building. So she's spunky and new in DY world.
There is nothing to spend. It's brilliant.
Nah. So you apply for it. You have your 40K. You can do it with you and your partner. Your income's there. No stamp duty, which is just massive. Billy, you're in a similar class of repayments in this situation. Off the top of your head, what's the repayments going to be if someone was using a 5% deposit?
Well, this is exactly what I did for any first home buyers are out there. My current repayments are $3,044 a month. Now, don't skip a heartbeat there.
Yeah, you do skip a heart. It is a bit scary when you hear that.
Here's the good news for you, first home buyers. You can beg mum and dad to stay at home. This kind of property that we're selling here will rent out for about $500, $550 a week. That breaks down to, $2,000 a month, $2,200 a month on the slightly optimistic side. All you need to put in to cover your mortgage is about $150 a week out of your pocket. We're talking a big night out here, a big Saturday night out, and everyone can afford or justify $150 for a big Saturday night out every now and then. So to get yourself into your own home, I think it's something that you want to just look at what you're prioritizing here.
Yeah, look, it's intimidating, Billy. They're big numbers. They're big numbers, but I think when you chunk it down, now you're a little bit blessed to be able to live in accommodation where you don't have to pay rent. Not a lot of people have that. But I was talking to a staff member yesterday where they're in share accommodation, and it was an extra couple of $100 a week. So instead of you living in that first home property straight away, if you can avoid that, stay in low rental accommodation dollars or no rental accommodation dollars, and get on top of things, it's pretty manageable.
It is. I mean, as you said, extremely blessed to be in a situation where I can still live at home. Definitely appreciate not everyone has access to that. There is equally a lot of people that do have access to it and, maybe don't take advantage of it. So here's something to maybe just think about. But as you said, you don't need to live in that home forever. I think another thing we've spoken about in the past is buy something that you can get your foot into. It doesn't have to be your forever home. In theory, it can turn into one of the portfolio. I think that's really important. Don't focus too much about having to tick every box on your wish list, because you don't have to live in it forever. It can just be an investment down the line.
It could be just a good renter, rather than a property that you're going to occupy, and you still can do that being a first-home buyer. Another thing, and I know that people may think they have to rent it, they have to live in it the whole time because they bought it under the grant. And that's not the case. So Nicole's got a question. You want to answer that, Billy Bob?
Can you use some of your superannuation
It's a yes, you can, but we're going to do that next Monday or Tuesday. We're going to talk about being a first home buyer and using some of your super towards your deposit. How do you do that? And we're going to chunk that down a little bit. There's a lot of facets to it. We decided today we're just going to stick to that 5% deposit. Give you a couple of working examples on that, and then we're going to create just a little bit of a library there for people to share with friends and family on that. Anything else, Bill?
No, I think the big numbers from today's takeaway: 5% deposit, save 15 grand on your lender's mortgage insurance, 0 stamp duty on approximately 650. That works out to be a saving of 25 grand. Massive. Rent it out. As Luke said here, has this created a bit of a rental crisis? Maybe, but take advantage of it. If you can rent your property out, you're going to get a premium at the moment. It'll help offset a huge chunk of the mortgage. And it is big numbers, but it's manageable. It's manageable. You just need to set it up the right way. It's doable as well. You don't need massive income to buy your first property.
And in some core markets, these prices have come back 10 or 20%. On 600 grand, that's about 120 grand prices are back. So I know interest rates are up, but you're saving 60 to 120 grand on your purchase these days, comparatively than if you bought 12 months ago. Pretty sexy.
Yeah, you're either getting a killer deal where you're getting an amazing property for 20% less, or for some people, it just gives you an actual opportunity to get into the market. Before, some people were simply just priced out. There was nothing. Now there's something.
That's a show.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Have a good one. What are you doing today, Billy Bob?
Got an exciting appraisal in the office. Callback, second round of callbacks. Busy day ahead. And you?
Awesome. Just catching up because I've been away. So it would be good to get on top of all my emails. They're a little bit out of control. And there's a couple of really big, exciting deals that you'll come out in the marketplace and see shortly. So there's a couple of good Brookvale sales, Narrabeen sales, some commercial ones, and also Colorado Plateau. So a lot of that, there's some good bigger deals happening.
What's the secret to your tan these days?
1 hour.
An hour a day keeps the pasty away.
Yeah. So when I was away, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to lay in the sun on an hour, baking like a potato, 30 minutes one side, 30 minutes on the other.
There you go, Luke. That's what you and I both needed to know.
You know what? You feel good with it. You got to do it. There was a famous quote from Aristotle Onassis. He was a shipping merchant, one of the richest men in the world at a stage, and he said, "Mr. Onassis, can you give us one piece of advice in business?" And he said, this was a news editor asked him, and he said, "Yes, I'll give you one piece of advice." And they said, "What is it?" And he said, "Always stay tanned." And they were like, "What?" And he goes, "Always stay tanned." He said, "In business, good times, bad times, I always look the same." He said, "I always stay tanned." Very good for you. Great guy. And I love that. I think it's healthy.
I agree. I do like that one. See you later.
See you, right. Take care. Bye.